Hello everyone, Bashrob here. In this video I'll show every charm, or tool, or whatever you call it in Silksong, interaction in the game that is not obvious or explained anywhere in the game, and you just sort of have to experiment and find them out on your own. First off, we have the Silkspeed Anklets and Flea Brew combo. Both Anklets and Flea Brew increase your running speed, with Flea Brew being temporary and requiring you to refill it at the Flea Caravan, while Silkspeed Anklets always work as long as you have them equipped, but cost a very small amount of silk to use. Both Anklets and Flea Brew increase your running speed by roughly 34% on their own, but if you use them together, you will run about 57% faster. Perfect for that one dreaded delivery quest. Did you know that Flintslate can help you with platforming? At least on Mount Fae. Normally, if you stay out in the cold air for over 15 seconds, you start taking damage. But using Flintslate gives you 5 more seconds before freezing. Even with no tool pouch upgrades, Flintslate effectively doubles the time you can spend out in the cold, and with all tool pouch upgrades, the time is tripled. You probably already know that equipping the Pollip pouch applies venom to your tools, as stated in the description for the pouch. And the pouch does indeed apply to every single red tool. With most tools, the way venom works is pretty straightforward. When the tool hits an enemy and deals damage, it applies 2 ticks of venom, which is flat damage that does not stack. However, you can also use the Pollip pouch with the 2 consumable red tools in the game, the Flea Brew and the Plasmium Phial. And don't worry, this isn't another Hunter's March bench kind of situation. The effect is still positive. You don't poison yourself doing this. The Flea Brew venom effect might be the most potent of all the tools. Not only it applies the standard 2 ticks on each needle hit, it also applies 3 ticks of venom on any enemy that gets close to you while the effect is active. The Pollip Plasmium Phial effect is not nearly as good as the Pollip Flea Brew. It gives you 1 purple mask instead of the standard blue mask you'd get without the Pollip pouch, and this mask expires after a couple seconds, or if you take damage, and bursts into a cloud of venom. The range of the cloud is quite nice, but it still only deals the standard 2 ticks of venom damage, and any other red tool will deal far greater damage than this one. But there is one more Plasmium Phial secret interaction, one far more interesting. If you manage to get 9 blue masks, you will activate passive regeneration, where you heal 1 mask roughly every 6 seconds, sort of like the Hiveblood and Jonas Blessing charm synergy from Hollow Knight, but on steroids. The regen is faster, and it doesn't only regenerate the last mask lost, but all health. You can still heal the usual way too, but it will only heal 1 mask instead of the standard 3. This is an immensely powerful effect, as having your heal interrupted during difficult fights often sends you on a downward spiral, causing death. Plasmium regeneration lets you focus on the offense, and lets you spend your silk on silk skills without worrying about healing. In order to get 9 blue masks, you will have to use the Architect Crest to refill your tools, as the Plasmium Phial can only hold up to 6 at maximum capacity. This means you cannot obtain this effect on other crests. At least until Act 3, when more Lifeblood cocoons pop up in the warm ways. From that point, Plasmium passive regeneration will be available with any crest, except the Shaman crest, which does not have a red tool slot, and thus cannot use Plasmium Phial at all, and there are only 4 cocoons in the area, meaning with Shaman crest, the theoretical maximum is 8 blue masks. One big downside of Plasmium regeneration though, is that you are not allowed to use benches or even fast travel, as either will clear the effect. Next up we have the Reserve Bind, which is essentially a one-time heal that doesn't cost you any silk, that gets refilled when you rest on a bench. The description for Reserve Bind mentions healing specifically, but it does work with the Architect Crest's special ability, the Crafting Bind, as well. Not a game changer, but useful to know. Multibinder is a charm that normally extends the healing animation, but lets you heal 1 more mask. With the Crest of the Witch, which can deal damage through its healing animation, The Multibinder also lets you deal extra damage. Normally, the Witch Crest deals up to 3 times needle damage on heal, and with Multibinder this goes up to 4 times needle damage. Multibinder can further be combined with Claw Mirrors, which roughly doubles the damage of the mirrors, giving you sort of Witch Crest heal effect on any crest you want, except you actually heal the masks even if you fail to damage the enemy. The mirrors normally deal 30 damage upfront, with 3 ticks of 12 damage shortly after, and this is flat damage that is not tied to needle upgrades. The only downside for Witch Crest users is that this synergy does not work with the Witch Crest for some reason. You can still use both Multibinder and mirrors with the crest for a very respectable 150 damage, as Multibinder does improve the heal damage, and mirrors still apply their usual damage, which still makes this combination on Witch Crest about 25% stronger than the other crest, at the expense of having a more risky heal. Next up we have Scuttlebrace, a yellow tool available for purchase from the 12th Architect that lets you dash backwards at roughly twice the distance of the usual dash. However, you can also hold the dash button instead of just pressing it, which will activate a unique walking animation for Hornet, walking on all fours like a spider. This animation actually lets you walk on walls too, which can be useful in tight quarter fights or timing platforming sections in underworks or warmways. Fellow Clawline enjoyers might be pleased to hear that Barbed Bracelet affects harpoon damage as well. Barbed Bracelet increases needle damage by roughly 25%, but doubles all incoming damage, which is a pretty rough trade-off, especially for first-time players. However, if you use primarily Clawline and try to keep distance to minimize incoming damage, it might just be worth it. You can also add a Snatch Pick to the mix for even more damage. Sawtooth Circlet can also pair with the Clawline very nicely, as you can press jump right after Clawline to deal damage with both. The Circlet deals flat damage, roughly comparable to a twice upgraded needle though, so later in the game it might just be better to combine the Clawline with a standard needle slash instead. There's a nice little hidden interaction available by equipping Chakra's throwing rings and taunting enemies. It changes the default taunt sound and animation to match Chakra's instead. This doesn't really affect anything gameplay wise, but can be a nice way to greet Chakra whenever you meet her on your travels. One more taunt related tip that not many people know: taunting an enemy increases the damage of your next needle hit by 50%, so the button is not completely useless in case you were wondering. This bonus expires if you wait too long, get hit or change scene. It works with needle strikes and clawline as well, however it only increases the damage of the first hit, so it's mostly useful for powerful single hit attacks, such as the needle strikes of Reaper or Beast Crest. Fun fact I discovered while testing this, by the way: you can use the taunt as an attack if you're close enough to the enemy. Another fun fact: the taunt can also buff itself, where the second taunt will deal 50% more damage. And one more fun fact: with Wanderer's Crest, you can crit with taunt attacks as well. Lastly, one not so fun fact: Chakra's rings do not buff damage, which is a shame, because the Chakra taunt is the only taunt that doesn't cost silk. Next one is Longclaw, paired with Needle Strike of the Shaman Crest. Normally, Longclaw only affects normal needle slashes, extending attack range by a bit, similar to Mark of Pride from the first game. Needle Strikes are not affected, however, Shaman Crest Needle Strike is an exception. It's also already the attack with the longest range, and combined with Longclaw makes the range even more ridiculous, perfect for a long range build. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the most frustrating things in this game is getting hit by an enemy while healing, which not only cancels the heal and causes more damage, but also makes you lose all your silk. Warding Bell prevents taking damage if your heal is interrupted, but not that many people realize it can also save you some silk. You will still lose one full bind worth of silk, but you at least get to keep any excess silk. This is more noticeable later in the game when you have more spool upgrades, And very late in the game, this might mean you only lose 9 silk instead of 18, letting you attempt a heal right away again. Next one is probably the charm with the most vague description in the game, the Magnetite dice, believed to bring luck to the bearer. Apparently, this luck translates into having a chance of negating damage taken, and the chance increases each time you take damage, up to roughly 10%. Sort of like a budget version of Carefree Melody from Hollow Knight. But it's even better with Wanderer's Crest, as it synergizes with the special ability of the Crest, the ability to land critical hits. The base chance to land a crit is 2%, and the dice should increase it slightly to maybe 2.1 or 2.2%. It's not completely understood yet. The Silkshot tool is actually 3 tools in one. In order to obtain Silkshot, you need to find Ruined Tool in the Bilewater Weave Nest and bring it to someone who can repair it. And you'll get a different variant of Silkshot depending on who you bring it to. Option 1 is Forged Order, which will repair it into a powerful single-shot weapon with high capacity. Another option is to take it to the 12th Architect, who will turn it into a 3-shot burst variant. And the last option is to repair it yourself on Mount Fae, in a room just under the peak, which turns it into a railgun that can hit multiple enemies, but has a lower capacity. You can only get one of the 3 per playthrough, so choose carefully. In my opinion, the Architect version is quite a bit weaker than the other 2, but regardless of which you choose, Silkshot is a very nice tool to have in your arsenal. And the final one, combining Voltvessels with water makes them go off instantly, making it easier to deal damage with them. Normally, both variants of Voltvessels only trigger after a couple seconds, making it quite tricky to hit fast-moving enemies, but if the Voltvessels touch water, it's instant. It also annihilates anything currently in the water. That's all the combinations for now. Let me know if you're aware of a combination I didn't cover, and thanks for watching.